Today I'm at Dyffryn Gardens in the Vale of Glamorgan here in South Wales. It's a National Trust property and it has quite a lot of trees in it. So I'm going to photograph a bunch of them. But in particular I want to talk about 50mm prime lenses, and very specifically two of them. This Panasonic 50 1.8 and this Sigma 50mm f2, part of their contemporary range. It's their I series. It's got a nice clicky aperture ring. They are physically very different lenses, but how do they compare optically? I don't know. I've not tried this yet. Let's go and find out. Now, it was really rather hot when I filmed this video and I was operating two unfamiliar cameras, and I'm going to use that as my excuse as to why I forgot to film a section about the handling of these lenses. So we're going to do it in voiceover instead. The Sigma is significantly nicer. It's got an all-metal build, it's got a clicky aperture ring, it feels really nice and engaging in the hands. It's a significant step up from the Panasonic, but it does weigh a little bit more. If weight is a major factor for you, then that is something to consider. In terms of the camera that I'm using for this test, I'm using the Sigma FPL. It's a 61 megapixel camera. I think it's probably the highest resolution full frame sensor on the market at the moment, along with the equivalents in the Sony bodies, and therefore it should have ample resolution to test the quality of lenses and to find any potential problems therein with sharpness and things like that, and actually getting the most of the resolution out of the camera body. So from what I can tell from the back of the camera so far, I think the Sigma is better optically corrected. It certainly seems to produce less in terms of fringing when shooting very contrasty subjects. Now, the Sigma is sharper throughout the aperture range, but it's most obvious when shot wide open, and particularly on this photo as a sort of a middle distance of a statue, the Sigma is significantly sharper, particularly in the center, than the Panasonic. So I'm just going to do a quick focus breathing test. This is where the actual framing of the image changes as you zoom from near to far or far to near. And from what I've seen of both of these lenses, they both exhibit it, and I think it's roughly the same. I think there's less focus breathing on the Panasonic, but they're pretty close, and it's not as big a difference as I was expecting, considering that the Sigma lens is, in theory, targeted more towards photography. Now, Panasonic as a company, their main focus is video, and therefore it's no surprise that this is reflected in their lens design. This is designed more for video. One aspect of that is that all of these prime lenses in this range are the same size, the same physical size, the same filter thread size, roughly the same weight at least, and roughly the same balance, which none of that has any benefit for photography at least. But for video it can be quite beneficial. You only need one set of filters, you don't need a ton of step-up rings, and the balance is the same on a gimbal, so if you're swapping lenses on a gimbal, you don't have to rebalance it. That's a nice bonus. But for photography, it has a weird downside. Not a massive one, but if you have a bunch of these primes in your bag and you're rummaging around, you are never going to get the right one first time. They are all identical. It says on the side, that's not very useful. If you've got a lens cap on, maybe you can label it, but they're all the same filter thread, so you can mix the lens caps up. It's not a massive problem, but you know, it's a bit of a weird one, I suppose. Now, different lenses render colours in different ways, primarily down to their lens coatings. In this final location, the Panasonic did appear to present slightly warmer than the Sigma, but this wasn't consistent throughout all the photos over the day, and therefore I wouldn't really draw any conclusions from it. It wasn't a very scientific test. So which of these two lenses would I pick personally? Well, I own this one, but I'd pick the Sigma. It's a nice lens to use and it's optically quite a bit better from what I can tell. It certainly seems sharper and has less chromatic aberration, things like that. That's nice for photography, but for video I can see the point of this, especially if you own a bunch of this range already. Well, this will match, it's the same size. There's all these sorts of nice benefits to it, and that does make sense. It does have another benefit though, and the reason that I bought this is that you can pick this up ridiculously cheap. It's been bundled with a bunch of Panasonic cameras over the past few years. Means that second-hand you can buy this for under £200, and for under £200 it's an excellent lens and I would highly recommend it. So yeah, it makes sense, but out of the two, if I had to pick one, the Sigma is quite notably better and it's a more enjoyable lens to use. It's more mechanically satisfying. I should probably find a better phrase than that. Let me know your thoughts down below. I'd be really interested to read them. And thank you very much for watching. I'm going to go and not be in direct sunlight for a while because it's hot out here.